everybody, and welcome to the Creative Corner. This is the opportunity where you guys get to see inside the head, the heart, and the soul of an author. And joining me today is Virginia Heywood. Virginia, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Ocean. How are you?
I'm very, very well. And look, I know you as Jenny, so I'm just going to keep calling you that. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's all right.
Now, I know you a little bit, but the viewers watching right now have no idea who you are. So how about you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, okay. I'm English, but I've lived in Australia since 2001. I have 4 children. I have a job in recruitment. Yeah, I think that's about it, really.
Okay, so how did you like the shift from the UK to Aussie?
Oh, it was great. And it was just, we moved October post September 11th. So it was quite a nervous time in the world, and everyone thought we probably wouldn't come. But we did, and we went to Adelaide for about 7 years, which was beautiful, and then moved to Brisbane in 2009.
Wow, fantastic. Well, now you can add, when you're telling people about who you are, that you're an author, and you're the author of a book called Childfulness. Can you tell us a bit about that? What is that book about?
The book is about my journey with sexual child abuse, which occurred when started when I was about 4 years old. And I guess it's describing not only the incident, but probably more the journey through that, and then becoming, now a 49-year-old woman, and reconnecting with those little parts of me that I probably distanced myself from as some form of protection, which I'm learning now. And I wanted to write something beautiful about it, and I feel the story is beautiful, even though it's a hard subject.
Yeah, that was prominent as we were going through the publishing process, is that you wanted to show the transformation that occurred, the journey, especially the journey that one can go through after such a traumatic event. What made you want to write a book about this?
Look, I've written little bits and pieces. For me, when I process information, if I write it, it really helps me, and then I'm able to look back at it as well. The weird event was I was moving house. I got made redundant, surprisingly, and we moved in on the 17th of December, and I said, for the first time in my life, I hadn't got somewhere I need to be. So I sat down, I had my 2 youngest children here, and it's on the back of the book, and I went, I think I'm going to write a book. And they were like, well, what is it going to be about? And I was like, I'm not really sure. I could be here a while, but I wasn't. I wrote it in 8 weeks.
When you say that, you said you didn't know really what you were going to write. Did you know you were going to write about the abuse?
I knew I wanted to bring that to light, but I wasn't sure how much of it I was going to write about, because when you go through something like this, it isn't actually just about you, it's about all your family, it's about how everyone else feels. Well, it feels like that. It's about how society feels about it. So I didn't know how brave I was going to be at that moment in time. And I didn't even know if I was going to publish it. I just thought, I'm just going to write about this and see where it goes.
I'm going to jump forward with one of my questions because it's really relevant to what we're talking about. I wanted to ask you what you learned about yourself during the writing process. And from what you're telling me, it sounds like it was a very organic, I'm just going to go with what my muse tells me, and we'll see what comes on the page. So what did you discover?
I discovered I quite like myself, which I don't think I did before I was writing the book. I discovered how complex we are as human beings, but actually, I guess how simple we can be as well. Because when we reconnect with something that's traumatic, my perception was this is going to be so horrific, and it actually wasn't. It was obviously there's some raw painful moments in it, but the overarching experience I had was of grace and beauty, and just being able to really understand myself so much better and forgive myself for the personality traits I'd created to protect myself. I guess it sounds really corny, but I kind of fell in love with myself for the first time.
Look, that doesn't sound corny. You know, the sad truth is I've been in this game 23 years now. And I'm sick to death of telling these stories because I'm telling at least one every year. And it's not that I don't want to help tell them, because I do, and you know this. It's just that I shouldn't be telling all these stories because it shouldn't be happening, you know? So over that time, I've seen people relive those events and be re-traumatized by it because they felt that they were reliving it again. And then I've heard similar to yours, which is I feel that I've reconnected with myself. I've found much more peace within myself of who I am. And that, I guess, is one of the greatest tools of creative expression, because a lot of people will write about an event in their lives that's traumatic to get closure. They find it cathartic. If you can walk out of that and go, I feel empowered.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I absolutely do. And also what was beautiful is I also remembered all these beautiful things that happened when I was a child. So it wasn't all there's this incident that kind of is like a perpetual hangover that goes on holiday for a little while, comes back. But overall, I came out going, would I have preferred it to not have happened? Well, probably. So I don't know what the alternative Ginny would have been. But am I able to appreciate what I've learned by processing this? Yeah. Would I give that up? I'm not sure if I would.
That's awesome, because I support a charity called At the Ark, and that charity is located here on the Gold Coast. They specifically deal with families and children that have been through what you had. Yeah. And recently they had their annual gala, which I was fortunate enough to be the MC of. And they focused the theme of the gala around like it was a celebration, because whilst there's too many of stories of these to tell, there are a lot of success stories of people like yourself who can come out the other end of it and go, well, look, I wish it hadn't happened to me. But, what I've learned about life, people, myself, over the series of the last 30, 40 years, I'm pretty stoked with myself. I'm quite happy with it.
Well, and it's just, it's this kind of abuse is, most trauma is cyclical. So to be the bookend and go, one, I'm going to tell you all. Two, I'm actually going to tell as many people as possible who will listen to it for the betterment of society and protection of children. And three, there's going to be some celebration around it, because what I want people to feel when they read this is, this is one particular trauma, but there's millions of traumas, and you can come out and you can celebrate the damage that it has occurred, but it also makes you a much nicer person to everybody else, because you're then able to comprehend what other people may or may not have been through and be more compassionate.
And I think, that's what I was saying before about how, you've come out of this journey of writing, of expressing yourself creatively, being organic, letting the muse take you, and this is what's come out. I mean, that's what I guess a lot of people that have been through that situation, because I don't call them victims, I can't get there in my head, because I feel that we still have the power within ourselves to change our narrative. Yeah. But I see a lot of people that might have gone through that and struggled to find that, but I know everybody wants it. So let's talk about that. Who is the book aimed at? Who is the target market?
Well, I guess it could be anybody, because it's written gently. So feedback so far has been brilliant. People who know me very well feel like I'm sitting next to them, talking to them, which is lovely, because that's a lot of my friends in the UK who I haven't seen for ages. Also, there's been a number of men who have read it, and men in their 40s, men in their 50s, men in their 60s, and there's a softness that's come out in them, and they've just gone, wow. Oh my God, that's beautiful. And they've got daughters, so they're like, can I have one for my daughter? Oh, this daughter does this, I'm going to give it to her friend. So I don't think there's a limit on it, and whether you've had a traumatic event or not had a traumatic event, it's an interesting story, and it would just broaden your horizons a little bit, I think, in how you deal with other people when they're going through.
Oh, definitely is that. And what's your ideal picture in regards to what you'd like the book to achieve. You know, what mission have you got behind it, or behind you being an author?
Yeah, well, at the moment I'm talking to Braveheart. They've got a couple of copies in the Gold Coast, and so we're talking. They're going to read that, see what they think, and whether I become like an ambassador for them, because it's quite funny. They said, you know, no one really wants to be the face of sexual child abuse, and I was like, I don't mind.
I'm not surprised with you, Jenny. You know, what I do know about you, that's not something I wouldn't.
Look, I love writing. I really, really love it. I even love the publishing process, which I really thought I wouldn't, because I have zero attention to detail.
I disagree with you 100%. You were very, very clear, which I love with authors, because, you know, when you've never done it before, you can sometimes get ifs, maybes, there's a lot of queries. You had definition. You had definition around what you wanted to see. And
I definitely did that. But what I was worried about was, you know, spotting different things. And I've got a very busy life. And I was like, I want this to have the space it should. But I enjoyed every aspect of the process, even when I forgot one of the chapters. So right at the end of the...
Yes, I remember that.
So, I loved all of it. I'm 5 chapters into my second book, which is another big life story event that happened. There's no other point in my life that I feel more like myself than when I'm writing.
Wow.
And now I'm like addicted to it now.
Well, look, I'm going to take a moment before asking you my next question and just say how grateful I am that I get to be a part of that, because, you know, you are a good writer, and you do suit this kind of process quite well, I have to say. It's been a really pleasurable and smooth journey going through publishing Childfulness with you. So I am honoured that I get to share some of that best feeling that you have in regards.
Oh, no, thank you, Ocean. It was great. It was great. You were great.
What's next for you?
Well, I'm studying a thing called interplay, which is like it's a family trauma process. I do have I have a normal job, and then I have a children's yoga business. So I kind of feel that all coming together to be part of other people's journeys, and to be able to write as well, and write about like things that happen in life where, you know, you can just be completely knocked down by it, and that's completely understandable. But then you can come up, and, you know, if I could help people through that and provide it in an entertaining, heartfelt, you know, 1 minute, it's like my cousin, who I hadn't seen for ages in England. He's like one of the 40-year-old men, and he said, Ginny, I have sobbed and snort laughed, like with snot coming out of my nose, at some of the things that you've said in this book. And I guess that's my personality. I can cry in 1 second, I can laugh in the next. They're the kind of things I want to create.
Fantastic. I love the sound of that. So it sounds like you're going to be an individual to watch, an inspiration for others, and hopefully reshaping some future choices when it comes to dealing with the trauma of such abuse. I would like to ask you if you'd like to read some of that, either the sobbing or the snorting, whichever you choose, but a short passage out of the book for us.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a snorting or a snorting or a sobbing. God, that was a hard one to say. This is quite funny. I thought this would be my final chapter, and I'm quite a random person, and I was writing it as when I'd got to chapter 3, but I could feel I was still quite brittle around the edges, and I didn't want this story to be like that.
Okay.
And so I thought, just stop for a few days, and I went and visited this sunflower farm, and it just kind of transformed me. So this is just a little paragraph in the final chapter, but not.
Take it away.
Okay. In that moment, I knew it had to be softer. The story had to exist with others in mind. Fairly or not fairly, did not matter. Because it's not only my story, but also a family story. It belongs to generations past, and it will belong to generations beyond, whom I will never meet. It will belong to my great-great-grandchildren. Excuse me. The incident has already happened. I have little Ginny sitting right beside me. She's being acknowledged for her bravery, her pain, the lessons she has had to learn, the trust she needs to magic out from her heart, and the faith she summons up practically every time she plans something large or small. I don't want these precious others to think the two of us could not move through this, that we could not come out shining and proud like the sunflowers in the field. Who knows, later in the day, someone might chop my head off and take me home to live my final days in a vase of water, no longer in the sunshine where I belong. Sitting in my beautiful home, the home that picked me, picked Ginny with the green coat and the white coat, both of us living together.
That is, that's near the sob inside.
I guess I started saying, I was like,
I muted myself just before, so yeah, that's really, really special, and thank you so much for sharing that. I think that it does really align with the messaging behind the book. I love the green white coat element to it, and for those that are going to check this book out, which we'll talk about in a minute, you'll get to see that in the cover. Look, Jenny, thank you so much for taking the time out today to have this chat with me, to talk about you, talk about the book and your future.
Thank you very much, Ocean. Thank you.
Well, good. And for all you guys that would like to get a copy of Childfulness and find out a little bit more about Jenny Heywood, just check out the link at the bottom of the screen and go and check it out. We'll see you next time on The Creative Corner.